Let's crack open a beer and share some thoughts.
Mate, it does put me in mind with the Belgian beer.
Really?
Yeah, with the Thai bubbles, because some of the Belgian beers, like the Marriage Parfait, use the champagne yeast, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, it's...
And this has got a slight, not funky nose, but there's something other than the Citra just coming through.
There is a little bit more than to it, and because I think the first thing I said was that in terms of, we know what Citra smells like.
There's a couple of hops which I'm pretty good at.
Yeah, and Citra's
Citra's
one of them. And that was my first comment, was it's a bit of a funky Citra aroma that you get off of it. So what is it we're drinking, mate?
So we've got the Gospel, according to our sister Citra, a 4.3% bottle condition ale from Emmanuales in Sheffield, who I have never heard of before, and I've only had 2 of their beers previously, and that was in the last half hour.
Okay, well, Emmanuales sent us these beers to feature on this week's show, so we'll say that up front. As always, very grateful to receive beers to feature on the show.
Especially new beers from breweries I've never heard of.
Yeah, and you've probably never heard of them because they are quite a small concern as well. So a little bit of background to Emmanuales. The brainchild of Nick Law, who was started homebrewing in 2014. In 2015, he licensed his cellar in his terraced house into a small commercial brewery.
He actually had a cellar.
He had a cellar.
Rather than us saying we've got a cellar, it's a cupboard.
An actual cellar. Brilliant. And then rapidly had to upscale due to the popularity and moved into share the brewing kit with a Sheffield Brewing Company last year, at the beginning of last year in 2016. And then in the summer of 2016, Nick assumed the role as the brewery manager, and Emmanuales now form part of the Sheffield Brewing Company group. So they sit under a larger heading.
Okay.
But they all have a kind of...
But it's still independent.
It's still independent, yeah. They all have a bit of a religious theme to them because Nick has a devotion to the Christian faith. So hence the names of some of the beers that we're drinking tonight. And the
artwork on the front.
Yeah, absolutely. But in terms of their availability, only a few places stock them. Most of them are in Sheffield. And one of those being a place that I regularly talk about on the show is Beer Central. So if you do want to try any Emmanuales beers, I'd suggest getting in touch with Sean at Beer Central and seeing if he can sort you out.
That's definitely not been around too long then.
No,
only licensed the cellar a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Then I had to move out. So what do you think of it? This one on second tasting.
I'm going to agree with your initial assessment. It feels more like kind of a Belgian golden ale than anything else.
To me, it feels like it's an ode to Belgian golden ales, but with like a bit of modernity thrown in by putting in the Citra hop. I can't see. I mean, water, malted barley, wheat, oats, Citra hops, and London ESB yeast.
Interesting.
It's an interesting mix. So there's nothing really to suggest why we're getting what we are, and there's nothing on the bottle to like for tasting notes and stuff. So whether it's just us, whether it's just the bottle, whether that's the way it's been intended, I don't know.
And this is part of a series of single hop beers that Nick sent through to us. So we're going to be doing all of those tonight, and I think these single hop beers are all. So this is part of the Gospel According to series, which is a collection of traditional English ales showcasing various hop varieties. So we're starting off with Citra, and we're going to be moving on to Centennial and Mosaic as well throughout the evening.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one, and it's well carbonated.
It is. It's really lively.
Yeah, it's very lively.
Yeah, I mean, it came out of that bottle, and like I said, it had really tight
Which
bubbles.
is what made me think of a Belgian beer.
Yeah.
Because often Belgian beers are very lively.
But that liveliness just gives a lovely kind of tingling in the mouth. And nice
Yeah,
refreshing feel.
although I'm probably feeling that it's probably, for me, maybe a bit too lively to session it.
I could see that, yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is the lowest ABV of the three that we're doing. It's only 4.3% as well, so...
But it's always, I mean, I guess with secondary carbonation going on anyway, secondary fermentation, it's always going to be a bit hit and miss. It's never going to be an exact science about how it's going to come out when you have it anyway.
Absolutely. So while we continue to tuck into this, let's do our beery adventures for the week, mate. I think we've both had fairly similar experiences this week.
Yeah.
Haven't we?
Well, we had the Essex Bottle Share last Tuesday.
Yes.
The day after we recorded the last show. And the only other thing I went to, but on a different day to you, I went to the Chelmsford Beer Festival.
As did I. It was my first ever visit to the Chelmsford Beer Festival.
I didn't realise.
Summer one.
Was it?
Never got to it before.
Oh.
It's always fallen...
Has it just fallen at the wrong time?
At the wrong time of the year for me, and I've never been able to get to it.
Okay. I mean, I couldn't get to it during the week this year.
Yeah.
I could only do the Saturday, and the Saturday was busy in the afternoon because it was a gloriously hot day.
Yeah. I mean, they had great weather all last week for it.
Yeah, which is good because, I mean, 3 or 4 years ago, they were waterlogged.
Yeah.
I guess the only downside is that, for me, with my Celtic blood and white skin, I could have done with a bit more shade at times.
What do you mean a bit more shade? All the beers were intense.
Yeah, but you're not necessarily sitting at the tables all outside.
Yeah.
And also, it can get a bit warm underneath them. I could have done, it's just me. I could have just done with a bit more shade, but there's no shade at the park where it is. There's no like big trees or anything like that.
No, it's a very open.
They've got the very open space, haven't they? But good selection. I mean, a number of beers on. And Saturday, I did notice from about 3 o'clock onwards, because I was thinking, this is going to be tight later. A whole load of beers got whacked on, so I think they were working on the basis it's a hot day. People are just going to rock up.
See, now that might explain one of my disappointments from Tuesday, because I went on the first day, so first afternoon before the bottle share.
Yeah, because we don't drink enough at the bottle share.
Probably not the wisest move, but it was the only opportunity I had to go. And a lot of the beers weren't on. There was, I'd say, probably less than a quarter of all of the casks that were racked on the shelves.
I'd say it was less than that at 12 o'clock on Saturday.
Were on.
It was really strange.
Yeah.
The brewery bars.
Well
stocked.
Yeah, but it was the general bars that had
Yeah.
like the A to Z bars.
But the brewery bars are all fairly local, so they can sort of top up, can't they? Bring in some other ones. Whereas the general selection was really low on Saturday. First of all, really low.
Well, it was on Tuesday.
Well, obviously the big news, the couple of big news from the Chelmsford Beer, they had a key keg bar.
They did have a key bar, which was amazing.
Yeah, they had a big sign up saying yes, this is real ale.
Yeah.
Just in case people weren't sure. You could have. I think they did have some holy water available as well if you needed to cross yourself as you went past. Speaking of water, drinking taps.
See, now I didn't see those on Tuesday.
Yeah, one right. You know where the music tent was and the beer tent started.
Yeah.
There was one there, and I think there was one over the other side as well.
Okay.
I think there was at least 2 water taps.
Right. Well, I didn't see them, but the keg bar did have a rinsing station.
Yes.
As well, which seemed to only be getting used by people that knew how to use it.
I would say that on Saturday mine did get rinsed out before they poured the beer.
There was one occasion where mine didn't. But I just want to mention a couple of highlights for me that I tried while I was there. So from Grain Brewery, who are up in Norwich Way, I had the Lignum Vitae IPA, which was just really, really good. I mean, I've got to say, I've had a handful of Grain beers, and every one of their beers that I've had have been absolutely spot on. I really enjoy Grain
Didn't you
beers.
go when you were up in Norwich? Didn't you go into their tap room
We
or the
did.
pub where
They've
have all
got
their
a
beers?
pub which is basically their tap room. Yeah, and I was impressed with that. And the other one was from Elephant School, which are Brentwood's craft.
You were looking for another word there, weren't you?
I was, but yeah, and that was the Mango Unchained double IPA.
Yes.
Hazy.
Yeah, I mean that was my beer at the festival as well. Very dangerously drinkable.
Didn't drink. What was it? 7.5.
7.2, 7.4.
Yeah,
it was a very drinkable beer, and it was well delivered as well. We went for, I think me and Carl had that second or third beer. It was like, I could have sink a few of these, to be honest. It was. I think that from the Elephant School, which is their modern take on some of the beers, they've really stepped up. I think in the last 6 months or so, there's some really nice beers coming in. But that's, I think, the best one I've tasted.
Absolutely, that was incredible. Really enjoyed that.
So I was really pleased with that one.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a few other bits from the Chelmsford Beer Festival I think we'd like to highlight.
Well, I think more that you'd like to highlight, because I wasn't actually there when the incident happened, but I made the most of it on Twitter. Even though I wasn't there.
Don't blame you. I mean, to be honest, it surprised me, and I'm well versed in the dark arts of going to CAMRA beer festivals. On the way in, Carl, myself, and my girlfriend Michelle went to pick up our glasses, and one of the ladies who'd served us started off the sentence, "Oh, pick up one of the pint glasses." And I thought she was going to say, "So you always get more than a half in there." I thought she was just going to give us a little top tip. Bearing in mind, all three of us had shown our CAMRA cards.
Yeah. I
was surprised by the end of the sentence, which said to Michelle, "So you can get more Prosecco in there." What the fuck? I mean, come on. I couldn't believe I'd heard that.
It's just
Prosecco.
So wrong.
Michelle's got her own CAMRA card.
Yeah.
We're just showing it. And it was like Prosecco. I couldn't believe it. But later on, another guy from the bottle share, Andrew, him and his partner turned up, and she got offered a wine glass straight away. Not even a beer glass, just got offered a wine glass.
So it's this sort of behaviour that I know still completely alienates a lot of people from ever wanting to join CAMRA.
And I can't believe, and I'm a member of CAMRA. I won't get rid of my membership because of individuals who, for whatever reason, thought that was an appropriate comment to make. It wasn't necessarily, was it insulting? I'm not sure, but it was just completely out of place in this day and age, especially when you know that the person is a member of the society already.
Yeah.
So it's the campaign for Real Ale. You've got a campaign for Real Ale card. You're turning up at a Real Ale festival. There's a good chance you want bloody Real Ale.
And yeah, you're going to know what you're doing.
Or you're going to ask, "Oh, is there any wine available?"
Yeah.
But she didn't. So I couldn't believe she said that. And then to find out that someone had actually been just blatantly offered the wine glass. I mean, that's a bit like saying, a half for the little lady.
Yeah. And I mean, like I say, I wasn't there, but I did take the opportunity to tweet it because I couldn't believe that it actually happened. And a couple of people came back with some comments on my tweet as well. And I know there was a lot of people that commented on Michelle's original tweet. But the two that I just want to mention. So first of all, Mr. Mashton at Jim_Rangeley said, "It's this kind of bullshit that makes me regret the accidental renewal of our memberships."
I like that, the accidental renewal.
Yeah. And then JT at Al_metal. One nameless bar once asked my wife, "Just a half then, are you sure?" when she ordered a pint. And I just... Surely we've got to move on from this now, Drinkers come in all shapes and sizes and genders and all the rest of it, and we all drink what we want to drink when we want to drink it.
Yeah, I was surprised on two levels. One, that anyone said it, but I was surprised it came from another woman who was obviously a CAMRA volunteer. It's like, well, why should it be any different? So yeah, that was disappointing because it just makes it easy for people to have a pop.
Yeah,
it makes it easy because Chelmsford Beer Festival, they brought on Key Keg for the first time this year. They've had water taps for the last couple of years, so compared to some CAMRA beer festivals, this is quite progressive. And then they go and shoot it all, with one sentence.
It's interesting because I've this week have booked a ticket to go to the GBBF.
Yes, you have,
which is quite a step for me. And I'm going with you, and you always kind of traditionally go on the last day, which I've always been really sceptical about. Because
I would remain sceptical.
I'm not sure of the quality of the beers, but I think this year I'm going to be more driven by just watching what's going on. So kind of some of the practices and comments and things that are being made. I think I'm going to be more interested in that than I am the beer.
Well, don't ask for water.
I don't plan to. I plan to take my own.
Take your own water.
Yeah,
that's my top tip for going to the GBBF.
So anything else from your beery week? Any other standout beers or anything?
Going back to the bottle share. I mean, pre-bottle share. You had just put on Twitter 5 minutes before I got off the train about a certain Manchester cask ale, low ABV, was available.
It had just gone on,
and lo and behold, Track Sonoma was there. So I decided to have more than one pint of Track Sonoma.
And it was tasting
Oh, it was banging.
damn fine.
Banging was all I've written down. Doesn't actually say much else at all. A couple of bottles though that we did share at the bottle share. Justin brought along the Jacobson Mermaid Porter 2013, which is actually from the Carlsberg group. So I don't know whether it's one of their old beers. I couldn't. There wasn't much on the label, if I remember correctly. It's quite a limited edition. That was a really nice, very rich, very dark night. I rated that very highly on the night. But one which I wasn't sure about was the Sour Ale from Wild Beer Co. But it was perfect for a warm day.
Which one was that? The
Tapash.
Okay.
From the Wild Beer Co. Sour Ale, well balanced, good summer, sour tart. But it wasn't lip. I didn't find it lip puckering, to be honest.
No, and I quite enjoyed that as well. And didn't it? It also had some. Didn't it have cinnamon or something in it?
There was some, but it was really light.
Yeah.
There wasn't loads of it.
So it wasn't like Christmas beer.
No,
cinnamon.
it wasn't like loads of herbs and stuff. I had a beer
yeah.
at the weekend, which again, someone had killed it with just herbs.
Yeah.
Like, why did you bother putting herbs in it?
Well, no.
I can have herbs anytime.
I don't belong in beer.
No.
So, okay. Well, any other highlights? Or was
That's it. It was quite quiet.
Okay. Just one more beer I want to mention, which was a beer that I had at home at the weekend. It was from North Riding Brewery, and it was their IPA. And this was a collaboration that they did with Wild Child, I think it is, that was using Mosaic, Centennial, and Equinox hops.
Ooh.
And it was absolutely incredible. The nose on it was like tropical fruits, but it was like a dark amber colour, almost brown in colour.
Okay.
But you could see through it. Crystal clear, which always is a big tick for me these days with IPAs. And on the flavour, again, it was just tropical. It was like creamy caramel in there as well. Absolutely perfect, an absolute stunner of beer. Really
The
enjoyed
Equinox
that
is definitely turning up a lot more in beers.
I think that's beginning to be a bit of a wild card as well, which is making a lot of beers really, really good.
Yeah.
At the moment, so I'm interested to see where that hop's going to go.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever tried a single hop version of it.
No, I don't. I
So I wonder whether it works or not.
I think maybe it's a hop that's used for balance.
Compliments.
At the moment.
Yeah.
But obviously the other two hops are beers that we're going to, in the other two beers that we're going to be drinking tonight.
Yeah,
so, definitely. You've finished your Citra.
I finished mine. To be honest, the Citra bit was quite well hidden for me, if I'm being absolutely honest.
I think I have to agree. Actually, I mean, we know what Citra tastes like.
Citra is one of the few things that I would probably say, yeah, I might be able to get that one.
Yeah.
Compared to a lot of people who we drink with, when I can't pick out the subtleties, Citra sometimes isn't very subtle. So there was a little bit of fruit in there and a bit of citrus and stuff, but I wouldn't have been able to pick it out as a single hop beer.
More, like, as we say, more of a Belgian golden ale than a Citra laden.
It was pleasant, but I'm not sure it did quite what it says on the label.
Interesting. Okay, so let's get into some news, and then we'll tuck into the second of the three beers tonight. So, as opposed to the last few weeks that have been quite news light,
This week ain't.
This week ain't. No, it all all hell seemed to break loose this week. So,
6 sales down.
Firstly, and I don't think we're going to spend a lot of time on this because I don't think things kind of fell apart as quickly as we thought they would do over this announcement. So the whole Carlsberg have bought London Fields announcement, which having seen a couple of press releases now that don't really tell you an awful lot.
Tells you both. It is press release speak, isn't it?
Yeah, and having seen social media's reaction to it, what it generally seems to be is Carlsberg have bought a brand.
Yeah.
Which they'll now make beers probably aimed at the entry end of the market that will appear on supermarket shelves.
Yeah, and they'll have a venue in hipster territory.
A lot of people probably within the same sorts of beery circles that we live in kind of think that it's a bit of a joke and something to laugh at. I think maybe the outlier here and the bit that you and I are certainly still struggling to understand is what's Brooklyn Brewery's role in this?
Yeah, Brooklyn Brewery's involvement with Carlsberg and this deal. I'm sure someone can enlighten me, but I don't understand it. Because I thought Brooklyn had a fairly decent presence over here already.
Well, yeah, they have.
And it's not as if, unless London Fields where they brew the beers is like got some massive capacity. It's not like they can suddenly start brewing it over there anyway. Well, I don't understand. And also where their tie-up with Carlsberg comes in.
Well, the press release only mentions 3 beers. So from London Fields, so it talks about Craft Lager, Easy IPA, and Shoreditch Triangle IPA. I'm just wondering if Brooklyn are seeing it as a potential taproom for some of their beers, somewhere that they can make a destination.
Yeah,
for I think brewery beers.
I think well, if it's definitely going to be a destination, I think that's one of the reasons they've bought that place. It's going to get marketed.
Yeah,
this place is going to get marketed now.
Of course,
and I'm sure it's going to be, especially if you're entry level and you're not familiar with some of the things, it'll be good because you will still get to have beers on premises, whoever's brewing it. But maybe Brooklyn beers are going to turn up there as well. I mean, the worst thing would be you go in there, you see some London Fields, some Brooklyn, and suddenly there's a pint of Carlsberg available for you as well.
And unless we're going to start seeing some of the rarer Carlsberg stuff in there as well. So you mentioned that one that we did at Boxshare last week. That they do have a kind of rare.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I don't know how often it comes out, but no. I don't know. I still don't really know what to make of the deal.
I think that's what a lot of people are feeling. They're just a bit like, what's it all about?
Because Brooklyn are big, Carlsberg are big, even in macro terms, and they're somehow working together to buy London Fields. Just feels like there's either something else to come or there's nothing. I don't understand.
Like I say, I think it's name alone. It's got London in the name, and I think that will be their key marketing strategy, which will be interesting because the other London brewery that does that quite a lot is Meantime, isn't it?
Yes.
That use London in a lot of their marketing.
Definitely.
So that will be interesting to see how that plays out in the future.
I'd be interested where this goes. Just don't understand it.
No, I don't, and I'm certainly not going to be rushing to London Fields to...
No, but if someone else does, let us know.
Yes, absolutely. So while we're talking London, the initial first schedule for London Beer City has been released, which you can check out at londonbeercity.com/schedule, detailing... What is it? If you print it all out, it's about 8 pages of events.
If you're going through it on just the screen, it's 3 or 4 clicks down, and then you have to get. Then there's 8 pages across, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, what did you think of the schedule, Steve?
I'm a little underwhelmed by it. I'm going to say, but I'm going to temper that with, I have just come back from Manchester Beer Week, which I thought was an excellent week of events. I didn't spend the whole week there. I only spent the end of the week there, but I think what Manchester did really well was they had a really nice balance of things like tap takeovers and stuff that you wouldn't necessarily get to try normally, and that was balanced well against paid for events as well. I've looked through the London Beer City schedule because I was quite excited this year because it's the first year of London Beer City that I'm free for the entire week and I'm actually not on holiday. I've got the whole week free, so I was like, brilliant, here we go. Going to have some of this. And I've struggled to find more than 2 events that I really want to go to. So, and those 2 events are, one of them is the Battle of the Bottle Shops, where all of the bottle shops in London are teaming up with breweries to produce collaboration beers, which sounds like quite an interesting
it could
event.
be quite a fun evening as well.
And the other one was the Colonel are taking over Brewdog at Shepherd's Bush and putting 20 of their beers on.
Yeah, which always sounds good.
And I was like...
Even at the Taproom in the days gone by, you couldn't get 20 of their beers on tap.
Yeah, so those are the 2 that really stand out for me. I think for me, what's missing, and a couple of the other events that are the paid ones I've looked at and I thought, that's a bit expensive for an event. I can't really afford that because by the time you bought the ticket and then your train ticket into town and then a bit of cash for beers before and after, probably.
Yeah.
You don't have to, but probably.
That's a bit like saying going to football.
Yeah.
Yeah, beers before and after.
It just all began to feel a little bit expensive, and I think the 2 things that it's missing for me is there don't seem to be a lot of tap takeovers. I think you mentioned earlier that past couple of years, Thornbridge have taken over a whole pub.
Yeah, the Craft Beer Co. Clark one. I couldn't see that on there this year.
That doesn't seem to be in there.
The tap takeovers is one, but I always quite like because it means that I don't have to plan it.
You can just go if you want to.
You can just rock up.
Yeah.
I've always quite liked the tap takeover ones I've done in the past because we went to the Cock a couple of years ago, and they had Magic Rock doing their various iterations of High Wire.
Yeah.
I mean, what I would say, just to temper what you said, obviously I haven't been to Manchester Beer Week, and you have. It's still very fresh in your memory. I think for lots of people who aren't necessarily in the beer scene, then I think there's still a lot of interesting events available.
Absolutely, yeah, I appreciate that.
Spread over quite a wide area. I mean, they've got a lot of ones in different areas these days. I mean, bizarrely, bearing in mind it's the London Beer City, the one which appeals to me is the Whitelocks doing a Yorkshire beer takeover at Mason and Co. I thought, well, actually, that sounds quite interesting, actually, because there's a lot of decent beers that from a lot of good breweries they could bring down for that one.
Yeah.
And also interested to see that London Craft Beer Festival and Great British Beer Festival bookend the week rather than both coming at the end of it, like they did before, where London Craft Beer Festival was on the same weekend as the end of the Great British Beer Festival, wasn't it? So that's changed as well.
Yeah, but interestingly on that, and this was something that somebody highlighted to us last week, because I was always really confused about why the London Craft Beer Festival was on at the same time as GBBF. And they always used to say that basically what they were trying to do was to capture the same market. So while you were in town, maybe for GBBF, you might then also go to London Craft Beer Festival as well because you were around.
True. And completely opposite ends of London.
And I'm wondering if by bookending it, whether one of them is suffering. Now, there was a tweet last week where London Craft Beer Festival have offered a massive discount.
Yeah, with a discount code which gave you money off and money off vouchers or food or something.
Which actually put the entry price cheaper than the early bird tickets.
Which should never happen.
And I know a lot of people kicked off about that and said, well, hang on a minute. I bought an early bird ticket, thinking I was getting a good deal, and all of a sudden there's now this cheaper ticket come out. That's not on. No,
I mean, whether, LCBF have moved to a bigger area now, haven't they?
Yeah.
I don't know if they're necessarily suffering from not being at the same time, because I always struggled to fit it in when I did go. Last year I did Saturday.
I was going to say, you managed them both last year though, didn't you?
The year before I did them both on the same day.
Yeah.
And the last year I did one on the Saturday and one on the Sunday. But then my favourite bit of LCBF last year was going to the Cask Bar.
Yeah.
Ironically. But that's the small pour and DJ thing for me.
Yeah. But anyway, like you say, yes, it's, it is a great week of events. It might not be appealing to me at the moment, and maybe as more events are added, I might end up going to it. But certainly check it out for yourself. As I say, that's at londonbeercity.com/schedule. There will also be a link to that in the show notes tonight as well. While we're still talking beer weeks, Manchester Beer Week of this week, even though their week's finished, they've launched a charity appeal, which is about tackling homelessness in Manchester, which is an issue that's massive. And I can contest to that, having been up there. I commented while I was up there that there are a lot of people living on the streets in Manchester. So they've launched this appeal. You can make a donation to street support for a minimum of £5. And if you do, you can enter a prize draw to win some amazing goodies that have been donated by breweries and venues that participated in Manchester Beer Week. So just an idea of what's available. There's a £50 gift voucher for Bundobust. There is a case of 2 Hoots plus 2 branded 2 Hoots glasses from Joseph Holt, mixed pack of beer from Hawkshead, mixed case of bottles from Marble, stuff from Northern Monk, stuff from Runaway. There's all sorts going on. So this is a great opportunity to donate to charity and to get an opportunity to win some free stuff at the same time as well. Check that out at mcrbeerweek.co.uk/charity-1/ again, there'll be a link to that in the show notes. But great appeal and great to see Manchester Beer Week using the strength of their brand to support charity.
Definitely, as well. It sounds like an extension of some of the stuff you've done in the past with the Big Beery Night as well. Yeah. And, great for the brewers to get involved. And again, donate stuff. They must get asked all the time for stuff as well. So, very generous of them.
Absolutely. So let's just, while we're in the north, let's continue on that northern theme. North Brewing Co. have been named the UK's best IPA. They've got the UK's best IPA. This was named Imbibe Live, and it's Transmission by North Brewing Co. in Leeds, which is a 6.9% American-style IPA. that won that particular award. With over 40 IPAs in the challenge, 5 made it to the final, and that was the one that came out on top.
Okay, so, congratulations. Not sure I've had it myself.
I have.
I say that. I mean, maybe I'll have a quick look.
I have. Sadly, it was when I went into the North Bar in Leeds, wanting a pint of Cannonball, and Cannonball wasn't on, and they offered me Transmission instead. And while it was a nice beer, it wasn't Cannonball.
So you were a little bit upset.
I was a little bit upset, but it's a decent drinker. You know, it's exactly what you want from an American style IPA.
I lie. I have had it.
You have had it.
6.9% says on here. Yeah, I didn't rate it very highly.
Did you not?
I've just written down not too bad.
Informative as ever.
Yeah, that was on the December the 19th, 2015. That must have been on the Leeds crawl.
It must have been.
You guys,
that would have been towards the end of the day.
Yeah, but you guys went for the pints of Cannonball because they only had the one glass, one serving for it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And I had 2 pints of two different casks in there. I wasn't fussed about either cask that day.
Okay.
In there, and I regretted not having the pint of Cannonball.
There you go. Should always.
But that is the back end of 2015, and they've got an award in mid 2017, so it could easily
like
change.
most things, it's probably changing. It's
Yeah.
probably evolving over time. Yeah. So some new beer news. Shepherd Neame are introducing a new lager called Sink at 5% ABV. It's a 5-grain premium lager. So, and I found this quite interesting because they've blended barley, rye, wheat, maize, and rice with Strissel Sport hops to produce a new lager, which will be available in bottles from August or on keg now. So
And it wasn't on keg last week when we were in the Hoop and Grapes.
it wasn't. No,
I wonder where it fits. Just briefly, I know we won't spend out, but if you're thinking about what they had on offer last week, they've already got their Whitstable Pale
They have.
on cask, the Whitstable Blonde on keg. They already do
the Whitstable Lager as well, which we had a few of.
Yeah, and they already do the lagers that they brew under license, like Asahi, Oranjeboom, Samuel Adams. So, bit of I just wonder where it sits in there.
Well, the hops are French, which
that can't be helped.
I know. And apparently by combining the grapes, it produces a long-lasting head that helps retain flavour as well. So if anybody does come across that and gives it a go, let us know what you think of it. Be intrigued to find out. And then finally on the news, we've got a brewery that our friends from the Irish Beer Snobs podcast talk about frequently, Yellow Belly. Their cans are coming to the UK via Libra Drinks. Now, we haven't actually been able to find out much else about this, as in where they're going to be available and how you're going to get your hands on them, but I'm sure that will come out over the coming weeks.
Yeah, but Wayne, when you hear this, let us know.
Yeah, because I'd like to get my hands on particularly the one that people rave about, which is the Citra Pale Ale.
Well, Wayne's gone about that one before, hasn't he?
Yeah, it looks like they're bringing Citra Pale Ale, a passion fruit sour, and a lager.
Okay, more lager.
All about the lager, and that's the end of this week's news, mate.
Oh, that's not bad. Well done.
Quite a news-filled week.
After 3 weeks of fallow.
Yes,
we're back on.
We're back on. Shall we get into this second beer, which is I'll let you introduce it.
So this is the 4.9% Saint Centennial. So again, very much the gospel theme on it. I mean, you've got it looks like some sort of saint or monk looking at it looks like a hop with
definitely a hop.
A hop with the shining light around it. So again, another one which has got the secondary fermentation, it says. So let's see what this one's like.
Looks a little bit darker.
Yeah, a bit more
straight away. I mean, that's that deep amber colour on that.
Amber copper colour.
Yeah,
very traditional English bitter colour, isn't it? What do you think of the branding anyway? I mean, it's a very unusual. I know that we said that the guy who runs Emmanuales, the holy bit is from him, but I'm not sure how much that. I know that they're quite small, but I don't know how much that would stick out on the shelf.
I'm not sure this would. That their main brand, the kind of basic Emmanuales beer, again fairly basic branding that probably would stand out a bit more than this. But again, I think we coined this phrase this week that it's the colouring of the label is kind of that kernel-esque
yes
brown
It's definitely got. What did John call it? The parcel wrap.
Parcel wrap look to it,
which has definitely got.
I'm not sure the images are working. I'm going to be completely honest. They're really not working for me. It's probably. I've got to say, if I saw this beer on a shelf, I'd probably just walk straight past it.
Yeah, they would.
Thinking it was a bit of a gimmick.
Yeah, that's the only problem with saying it looks gimmicky.
Yeah.
Nice nose.
It's got a good nose on that though, hasn't
it?
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
That's quite bitter, isn't it?
It's bitter. It's really dry.
Very bitter and dry, but not bitter and dry at the end.
It's not, but
straight away.
I suddenly feel like somebody's shoved the sponge into my mouth and all the moisture's gone.
I wasn't expecting that from the nose.
It's just gone, no.
That was a shock, actually.
There's a little bit of caramel in there. Sticky sweetness at the end, little resinous at the end as well.
Yeah, it's strange because the bitterness and dryness is right up front.
Yeah.
And the other flavours come through afterwards.
Kind of the wrong way round.
Well, it feels the wrong way round.
For a beer.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Especially for me, for an English bitter. You get those sort of the sweet flavours often early on.
Yeah.
Then you'll get that dryness and bitterness towards the back end. This seems to be role reversal at the moment.
Yeah. Interesting.
See how it develops.
We'll see how that goes. While we get into this week's
Opinions, 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 opinions.
Are Taprooms the new pub? As simple as that.
Yeah, so how did this question came about? Because we asked people on Saturday what they want us to talk about.
We did, because
whatever comes next is down to you lot.
It's absolutely down to you lot. We had a bit of an empty week this week.
It's a bit of a blank canvas.
Yeah.
We had a few ideas, but we just couldn't really nail anything between us.
No, neither of us wanted to make a decision.
No.
So we put it to the public and we offered taprooms, we offered a discussion about ABV, we offered single hop beers, which was obviously kind of trying to lead people towards tonight's beers, but didn't quite come off. And then I think we offered some others as well. So we've banked some of the other comments that people made.
So first of all, thanks very much, because there was quite a bit of engagement on Saturday.
There was lots of engagement.
Really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and thank you to... And it's interesting because although the taprooms came out on top, the majority of comments were saying that they wanted us to have a discussion about ABV.
Yeah. But
the votes didn't reflect that.
Yeah.
So... hold that thought, guys, because we've got a few more studio shows before the end of this season, and as soon as we can nail the right question to ask,
exactly,
we'll do the ABV.
Yes.
So if anybody's got any ideas about what that question might look like, get in touch, because we're struggling as to what the question and poll would look like for it.
Yes.
We've both got thoughts about
but nothing
ABV.
Which quite translates it to a poll.
Yeah. So please get in touch for that. So we've ended up doing the poll about taprooms this week, and essentially just asking: are taprooms a new pub? Never. Yes. That was it. 2 options. 428 votes. 55% of people went for yes. 45% of people went for never, which is interesting in itself because when this poll started yesterday, yes went out into a massive lead. It was about 30% ahead of never at one point, and then slowly over the 24 hours,
to pull itself back.
The pub crowd came out of the boozer on Sunday
Came out
night
the pub
and got involved, and boy did they get involved.
There was some really good engagement on this, I have to admit. And what I think I've noticed over the last couple of weeks is that fairly much a really straightforward question with a couple of the very no yes kind of answers. We've got some really positive amounts of votes and positive feedback.
Absolutely. Since we've and we have made a subtle change into an either or, and we've stopped doing the ridiculous third option. And since we've done that, we've noticed an increase in the number of votes every week.
Yeah, I mean, the ridiculous third option, if appropriate, may well come back.
It may well.
It's not completely discarded.
Yeah. So let's get into some of these comments because there are quite a lot of them this week, and obviously, as always, we'll have our views and we'll be chipping in and out with these. So first up, regular contributor Mark at Million Bevs. Nope. They will never replace the pub. However, Magic Rock and Northern Monk are setting the bar for taprooms, though. Ample seating, great selection, good vibes. What do you think about that one?
Can't disagree with that comment. I mean, fortunately, having been to both, I can picture them both. Both great spaces, and both do have a very good. I mean, they've designed. I think they've really designed these places to, although not be a pub, not to necessarily feel like we've just opened up a bar at the back end of the brewery for you.
Yeah.
It feels like they are destination places, aren't they? And they're both lovely places.
They are. I mean, they would be probably...
They've got to be two of your favourites.
Two of my favourites. And my next comment will come as not a single surprise to anybody. I would also throw in there the Buxton Tap House as being probably another example of a fantastic tap.
I've only heard good things and seen pictures, haven't been yet. So
it's got more of a pubby feel than
which I think
Taproom.
Someone said that, didn't they?
Yeah, and unlike the other two, it's not at the Buxton site. So
no, it's a couple of miles away, isn't it?
It's actually a pub in Buxton Town.
In Buxton Town, isn't it? Whereas Buxton brew outside, don't they?
They brew on an industrial estate, just outside.
And so obviously, speaking of industrial estates, clay pot frog porridge at Clayfish.
I didn't think we were reading that name out anymore.
Yeah, this time I did. See if anyone else thinks it's ridiculous. Tell him, please. No, because no one lives on industrial estates.
That's a good point.
It's a very valid point, and they're not always the easiest to get to.
They're not. I mean, let's bring it back to Essex again, as we like to so often. There are a few taprooms in Essex now. A few breweries have taprooms.
Crouchvale have a taproom. That's on an industrial park.
Okay, how easy is that to get to?
That's not too bad. You need to know the route from the train station. Yeah. But it is train stationable.
Okay.
So it's not too bad. Who else have we got with tap rooms these days?
Wibbler's got one.
Wibbler's have got one. Again, that's at the end of the train line. It's about 10 minutes in Southminster. So it's not too bad.
So, and some of the ones in Essex seem to more have the micro pub kind, the micro pub kind of feel to things where you've got both farmers stroke Malden who have got
farmers and they're both
the same pub.
Yeah, I'd say
they've got a tiny little shop. That feels
like a micro pub.
Yeah. And then you've got Mighty Oak that have got a tap room in Malden.
Yeah, they've gone for a completely different style, haven't they?
Well. But Malden is almost impossible to get to by public transport.
Yeah, I mean,
certainly not by train.
No, there's no trains, and by bus, provided you are happy to leave the tap room about 4:30 in the evening to come back to any form of civilization.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think that's a very good point. But even the other ones I've been to tend to, they're just, and sometimes an industrial estate isn't the most welcoming of areas, is it?
It's not, and even if you look at the likes of maybe some of the bigger ones like Beavertown, who always whenever they've got an event they sell out now, but it's still on an industrial estate, which is 10 minutes from a 10-minute walk from the station. Yeah,
and generally it's not on your way home, and I think that's the point that Clayton's made, because pubs tend to be accessible. Yeah, or at least town centre pubs are easy enough to get to. Town centre,
and I think a lot of people said that as well. There were comments like, I would take my friends to a pub, or I would take my family to a pub. I wouldn't take them to a tap room, because you can be quite limited in your choices in a tap room.
Yeah, I think that's where I don't know if I saw a comment from the Bearded One, obviously from Twisted Barrel, and their tap room is not on an industrial estate, and it's not far off a residential area, and it's only about 10 minutes walk from the station.
They're probably in the perfect location for a modern brewery, because it's like a craft estate, isn't it?
Yes.
For all intents and purposes.
It's like a permanent setup of craft producers of one thing, whether that be sweets, cakes, coffees, cloves, whatever it might be. They're in that place which has got that feel and vibe, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that works really well. Pissing it down outside there.
But we did have a comment as well from Emmanuales, who have obviously supplied the beers for tonight. Taprooms are great, but will never replace the traditional pub. There's only so long you can sit on a chipboard stool and a makeshift table. What do you think about that one?
I think there are a few like that, and I mean that's where that's the opposite of Magic Rock and NBC, isn't it? I mean, neither of them have that.
Well, yeah. I mean, if we go back to Magic Rock and Northern Monk. Northern Monk have got this fantastic building where they've got the brewery in the basement, and they've used every floor to its maximum potential.
Definitely.
So they've got a lovely space to create a tap room, and it's a well-known fact that Magic Rock essentially designed their brewery around having this American-style tap room.
Yeah, I was about to ask you that. So how does it say Magic Rock compared to when you went to Cigar City?
Very similar, actually. Very similar in terms of feel and layout and space that was available. Maybe Scar City was a little bit smaller, but very, very similar.
Yeah. Okay. So purpose built. I mean, they must have, both of these parties spent. I mean, NMBC spent a lot of money in their venue.
Yes.
That refectory is lovely space, and Magic Rock have definitely built up what they've got.
Absolutely, and if you look at what breweries are doing with their tap rooms now, they're doing more and more with them. So, you know, particularly Magic Rock, this past weekend they had their annual bike day, where it was like a celebration of all things cycling. So they have like roller machines in, and they have roller races, and it essentially becomes a day for bike nerds as much as it does beer nerds. So, and I think it's these brewers that are beginning to say, you know what, actually, it's that whole thing that we've said a few times this season. It's beer and it's not just becoming about beer anymore. It's what else can you wrap around that experience, and that's what some of these breweries are beginning to get and beginning to do really, really well.
Yeah,
and because they've got the space to do it. It's just elevating them in terms of public perception.
Absolutely. Magic Rock aren't going to do that when Huddersfield have a home game in the Premier League next season, are they?
Well, no, it'll be interesting to see how they cope.
They just need to open their doors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there will still be beer geeks who want to go. So I think that, I mean, both those places are lovely. You've said it more than once now. And yes, but there are places which have the chipboard, stool and makeshift table.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just coming back again, and this will bring us back again to particularly Magic Rock. So James at Gammon Baron said, at least you can guarantee it's a decent, well-kept beer, served how the brewery intends. It might be the only place you can get it on cask too. So if you look at Magic Rock, they now have 5 cask lines in their tap room. When they first opened, they had 2.
I'd forgotten about it, because I think they only had a couple when I went up there. That was back end of 2015.
Yeah. They now have 5 permanent cask lines on in their own tap room.
Oh, that's interesting. So what do Buxton have at their tap room?
I think they have 2 or 3 cask lines on, and then just a range of their keg beers as well.
No, it's a valid point. I mean, again, one of my things about, probably our thoughts about tap rooms and pubs will probably come out in bits rather than one hit. But one of the reasons why I do like going to a tap room is because I'm taking it as read. I'm going to get the beer exactly as they intended it to be. I've gone there with that preconception. You're giving me exactly what you intend it to be is how I'm going to have it, whether it be cask or keg.
Because it's gone, it's travelled the shortest distance.
Yeah, in theory,
you should ever imagine it to travel.
Least amount of interference.
Yeah,
complete control. They dispense it how they want to. They only tap it when they want. Everything should be exactly as they want it to be. So I think that's a point well made by Gammon Baron there.
Absolutely. So let's have a look at some of these other views that we've had this week. So Rhythm and Brews podcast at Rhythm and Brews UK. No way. They serve 2 different functions to me. A tap room is a place for me to try new beers. A pub is a social place with more on offer. What do you think about that one?
So it's fairly accurate, actually. I'm not saying tap rooms aren't sociable, but I tend to go to tap rooms with people anyway. I don't know if I've been to a tap room on my own. Not for any particular reason, but I tend to make it a plan to go to a tap room. Whereas a pub, there are pubs I'll just walk past and think, I'll pop in.
Yeah.
I won't think twice about it. Tap rooms, I do have to sort of plan a bit more around it. Sometimes just because where they are. You're generally not just walking past it.
Well, that's what I said. A lot of the time, they're a destination, aren't they?
Yeah.
The 2 that we keep coming back to, Magic Rock and Northern Monk, you're not just going to happen to walk past them. You've got to,
highly unlikely, isn't it?
You've got to go to the town that they're in, and then you've got to be prepared for a 10 to 15 minute walk to be able to get to them.
Definitely. I think that for me, a pub has that more. A good pub, I should caveat that. A good pub has that social feel to it, because it does have a different walk of life going in there. Sometimes it's not just about the beer.
Yeah.
If you go to a tap room, it's generally about the beer. You go to a pub, I don't think it's always about the beer or always about the drink. It's about being. So you will go into a pub. The Victoria's a good example. There's a bloke who sits there at that table near the arcade machine on his own. The bar staff know him. He knows them. I think he's got a bit of a dodgy leg. They'll help him with the beers, but he's there regularly. He's not going to go to a tap room even if we're one available. I think it's just been in that social space where there's things going on and chatter and people walking past, and it's people aren't really talking about the beer, so to speak. I mean, when you're in a tap room, generally you're only ever talking about the beer.
Yeah, because
you're geeking out about it.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that lends itself a little bit to what Ian Sutton said. So Ian Sutton at Ian Sutton 12, tap rooms offer more of a beer experience, a choice of styles, and a chance to talk to the brewer maybe and knowledgeable staff, but they complement pubs.
Yep, again, agree. And I think that is nice sometimes. You turn up at a tap room, you may turn up there when they're very quiet or early doors, and you get the chance to talk to a few people. And if you're feeling, geeky and you really want to delve into some of it, and they're not too busy, they're more than happy to, because they do know it, don't they? Mm-hmm. Not like a pub where there's someone working behind the bar. They may well be perfectly pleasant. They do everything they're supposed to do, but they don't really know much about it. Don't always need to. As long as I'd rather they knew what they were doing, if I had to choose, than know what it is. So yeah, and I like the bit about complimenting pubs. I would hate for one to outdo the other.
Yeah, it's an interesting balance, isn't it, that we seem to be seeing between tap rooms and pubs, and that actually there is a space for both.
Yeah, although I think I've tried to find out before. I do wonder whether CAMRA takes tap rooms into account, because obviously we hear in the CAMRA paper, the CAMRA news, a lot about how many pubs close down.
Yeah,
we never hear how many reopen. I don't know whether it's a net figure. Does that net figure including tap rooms? Because Magic Rock's a tap room which serves cask. So does that get counted? I don't know.
Yeah, well,
so
I'm not sure.
Be curious
at
some point.
Do they get featured in the Good Beer Guide?
Well, clubs do, because Leighton Orient,
the
one Matt does, that gets featured.
Again, we'll ask our listeners if anybody knows. Let us know, please. So that was kind of the end of the tweetable responses.
The ones who could fit their comments into 140 characters.
That's the one.
Before we move too far, you don't vote?
No, because I can't.
Yeah. If you had voted, what would you have voted?
I probably would have gone for yes, because I think if I think back over, let's go for the last 12 months. I think I've probably done a lot of drinking in tap rooms that I've really enjoyed. So I've really enjoyed sampling a range of beers from a single brewery, and particularly using the example of going to Buxton and sitting in their tap room and drinking like fresh Axe Edge. It's an experience that you can't replicate that in a pub, because it's the environment and everything is there. But I do agree with what a lot of people are saying, that actually they are just one outlet to enjoy your beer. I couldn't ever see them replacing the pub, because I just don't think I don't think a lot of people get what a tap room is. Oh,
I'm sure that we do, and most people who voted and most people who are listening will definitely know what a tap room is. But there's going to be a lot more people who don't know what a tap room is, or a tap house, or the brewery's own pub. There's going to be a lot of people who probably don't even care.
They just want good beer.
Yeah. But perhaps in some areas where a few pubs have fallen by the wayside, or a few pubs have just given up the ghost of trying to do some really decent selections of beer, then if you have got the option of a tap room, and I would go back to the Twisted Barrel as the example. I didn't see many pubs on my walk up from the station that appealed to me before I got to Twisted Barrel.
They're all very traditional, aren't they?
Yes.
On that walk, yeah.
And I didn't look in, and the bearded one will quite happily correct me, I'm sure. There was nothing which leapt out at me as thinking, I wonder what choice they've got on. So I think that if I did vote, and I voted never, because I don't think pub. For me, it's not. I don't want to use the phrase "the pub is the hub," because for a lot of people it isn't. I like being able to just walk into a pub at any time of day or night, especially a pub that I know, and not having to talk to anyone if I don't want to. I don't really want to engage, and the pub will generally let you do that as well. But I love going to a tap room. I love going to a tap room thinking I'm just going to taste all the best beers from that brewery and really enjoy it. And I think we've asked this before. Should taprooms sell other people's beer? So I saw some comments from Miles and I think Steve from B&O chipped in. And it sort of altered what my cast iron I thought was no. You should have enough beers to sell your own.
Yeah, if you've opened up a tap room, then I would, and unless you've done a collab or you're doing a takeover of somebody else's beers, I would only expect to see that brewery's beers on in their own tap.
And that's what I've always had in my head.
Yeah,
because I've had a couple of experiences where I've gone to tap rooms and the beers they've had of their own were a bit rubbish, and the best beers were other people's. And I'm thinking, well, at least I had something. But I'm thinking, well, why were your beers so shit in your own tap room?
Well, they shouldn't be, should
no.
they?
But Miles, number one fan, and Steve at B&O both advocated tap rooms making space available for other breweries' beers,
which is something that Steve at B&O does. He uses the other end of his tap room, and he kind of almost lets that out as a guest tap.
Yeah,
and he's been doing that all this summer long. He's been having other breweries coming in and setting up at the other end of his tap.
And I have to admit, I'm not easily swayed on these things. I usually have a fairly definite idea and I stick with it. That swayed me a little bit. So well done, Miles and Steve. That doesn't happen very often.
Congratulations. Just before we go into some of these longer comments, you got any final thoughts on the Centennial from Emmanuales?
Having got a little bit more acclimatised to it and had a bit of a pause in between while I've been chatting, that bitterness up front has died away a little bit. The dryness is still there. The fruity, sweet flavours are there. But again, I'm not sure the hop is leaping out at me.
No, it became a little bit like a traditional English bitter for me, rather than anything that was really showcasing that hop.
I actually think this on cask would probably be better.
I can see that Jam.
To be honest,
really well. Okay, so we're just gonna, because there were a few people that really struggled with the 140 character limit this week.
Was there ever?
Yeah, the biggest of which going to Mark Johnson, who took 7 tweets to describe his feelings about this. So deep breath, and I'll try and get this almost in one. So Mark at Mark N Johnson. Oh Lord, good question. Can of worms firmly open. Pubs are very important to me, and the feel, the smells and the beer conditioning can't be replicated, even bad ones. They certainly can't be replicated in railway arches and industrial units, although most tap rooms can't work as pubs because of location. As has been said, people don't live on industrial estates. What about the range of pub characters? Tap rooms tend to only attract one type of person. If we're counting places like Buxton's, I consider that a pub that is owned by Buxton Brewery. Maybe that's another point. They are an excellent addition to pub crawls when visiting city centres, but not as useful as the local.
All good points. All 7 tweets, which made that up, and well done, and almost doing it in one breath. I don't know if many people would disagree with most of what he said.
I think he's nailed everything there, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Even covering, the Buxton point's an interesting one because, we said that, didn't we? That as a tap room, it's not actually attached to their brewery. So, although it's called the Buxton Tap House, it isn't actually on site.
No, and I think some people who... Buxton is quite a touristy place in England, quite quintessentially English, isn't it? I'm sure people rock up maybe for Buxton for a couple of nights, go there, probably don't even appreciate the connection to the brewery is only a couple of miles away, and that it is essentially a tap house.
Yes,
because it's more of a pub feel, and that could be similar to a couple of the ones in Malden as well.
Absolutely,
because they're not connected, they're not physically connected to the brewery, whereas I guess most people when they picture a tap room, you can see, feel, see the smell the brewery, see those silver fermentation tanks, and that's all going on, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the next one was Matt Curtis at Total Curtis. The impact of the tap room is perhaps what's driven craft beer. You just have to look at how vital they are in the States to see this. Pubs are equally important, of course. It's how both add value to the consumer experience that's the real talking point here.
Didn't Cigar City say to you, and I think they're not the only ones, that a lot of their revenue comes from selling on site as well?
In the States, that's a big thing, the case, because they
can't distribution, isn't it?
They can't sell their beers directly to the public in packaged form because it goes through a distribution.
There's an extra layer, isn't there?
Yeah. So that's how taprooms in the States make most of their money. Or that's how breweries in the States make most of their money, is through their taproom, because people will come to the taproom to drink.
I mean, taproom is taprooms. It's a great way of getting instant feedback as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Instant cash and instant feedback.
Absolutely. This beer's great. It's sold out in minutes.
Yeah. So you think, we're on a winner here.
Yes. Yeah. And then there are a number of others as well. I'm just going to name check these. Because we could go on all night with this one. So Hops and Towels at Hops and Towels, Hoppy Hooper at Hops and Hoops. Honestly, we need more people with hops in their handle. And Joe Hill at Multiplex Ran all had very good comments about the taproom experience and how that relates to pub experiences. But the one that I want to finish on is from... she's been a guest on the show a couple of times. Everyone will know who we're referring to by now. So Ruth at Beer Fairy, an alternative but never a replacement. Pubs are often at the heart of a community, while for me taprooms are all about the beer. Pubs like cask beer are part of what makes our beer culture unique and special. They should be celebrated rather than replaced.
Can't really disagree.
What do you think about that one?
Yeah, it's, I didn't really want to say it quite like that myself when because I hadn't seen Ruth's comment. But, tourists come over here do look for old English pubs.
Yeah.
And there are some pubs, they have a picture of what that pub's going to look like, don't they? And they like cask beer. And while cask beer, yes, is available in other countries, there was a letter in CAMRA where someone was chastising a bloke who said you can't get cask beer elsewhere. I think what the bloke meant was, we're good at cask beer.
Yeah.
This is what we're good at. We're good at pubs as well.
We are very good at pubs.
We're very good at pubs. We're very good at... I don't know if any other country really replicates pubs as well as we do in the same way. Ours can have a really welcoming feel to it. So I think it's a really well made point. It is an alternative, but for me, I'd agree, never a replacement.
Well, it's interesting because last week I visited Fuller's. Which shameless plug. That's going to be a summer special that's heading your way soon. I was lucky enough to spend a morning with George Young, who's the head brewer there. She showed me around and we had a bit of a chat. So we'll be putting that into a show for a summer special. But
Martin's crying into his beer now.
Fuller's don't have a tap room at their pub. They've got a tasting room. They've got a place where you go to try beers at the end of the tour. But there is a pub on the corner of the brewery.
The Mawson Arms.
And the Fox and Hounds. It's a pub with two names.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's two. There are two pubs.
So it's a bit like the Globe and the Keats.
Yeah, there are two pubs on the site.
I didn't know it had the second name.
Yes, it has. If you look at the sign,
yeah,
one side says the Mawson Arms and the other side is the Fox and Hounds. But so after I finished at the brewery, I went in there for a pint of London Pride because it felt like the right thing to do. And the experience of drinking a pint of London Pride less than 100 metres from where it was produced.
Did you just have the one pint?
I did just have the one
Why
pint.
didn't you have two halves? Then you could have checked it into two pubs.
I clearly didn't think of that.
Aha. There you go. Sorry.
Missed the trick there.
Missed the trick there.
Absolutely missed the trick there.
New venue badge.
You've got it now, mate. You're all over the Untapped. I think that brings this week's discussion to a bit.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. The feedback was excellent, and
yeah,
I think most. It seemed like for most people there wasn't really a yes or no in the comments. It was we like both. One doesn't replace the other. They offer different things,
yeah,
and can complement each other.
Yeah, if you want a single brewery experience, you go to
Taproom's best place.
Yeah, if you want more of a social experience, you go to
yeah, definitely,
absolutely. So, while we've been finishing that off, you've poured the final beer of the evening.
Yeah, so we've got the Monastic Order of Mosaic, 5.2%, and let's see what this one's like. I haven't even smelled it yet.
Well, it's got a very similar aroma to the first one.
It has got a very similar.
In terms of there's that kind of it's not an overwhelming Belgian-ness,
but it's there.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
Very tight bubbles again.
Yeah,
as well,
but not quite as gassy.
Oh, fruity.
More fruity than I was expecting. I mean, again, Mosaic I'm a big fan of, but I feel like I'm getting fruit of something else there.
I've never normally got that much fruit from Mosaic.
No.
Before.
Oh, see how that one progresses then.
Yeah, let's we'll give that a bit while we get into this.
Let us know, write it down. Let us know, write it down. Let us know your thoughts and bitter and lingerness. Write it down.
So, only a few comments this week from our loyal legions of listeners. So Sophie Grumwell at Scofie G90, picking up on our discussion about there being no such thing as a bad Colonel Brewery beer. She was enjoying a bière de saison and wanted to let us know. So I'd still love to do that as a poll. Have you ever had a bad Colonel beer?
I think there's something in it. Just maybe I don't know how often Colonel gets further up the country. To be honest,
that's true.
I mean, he got to Germany when I was in Cologne.
Yeah, we could be isolating more than 75% of our listenership there.
But I would probably still have to say that I don't see Colonel often enough on tap. But when I do, I tend to go for it, and I'm rarely ever, if ever, disappointed.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I went for it when I was up at the summer beer thing in Manchester. They had their IPA Citra on, and I was like, that was going to be a beer I was going to have at some point during that session, because I knew it was going to be good. And again, the other one that this week again about a beer that we've mentioned many times in recent week and tonight again, Miles Lambert at Miles Lambert. Best low ABV beer in the UK right now is Track Brewing Sonoma.
At the moment, and it's so good on cask, and it showcases everything that's good.
3.8%.
Yes, it showcases everything that's good about cask beer and everything that's good that can be done with a low ABV beer as well.
The flavours in that beer,
but it's not thin either.
No,
doesn't disappear.
No,
it is to coin your phrase. It is definitely a smashable beer.
I think it's our phrase, mate.
I think you've used it more.
Smashable, but and yes, we were thrilled to see that on before Bottle Share last week.
Oh god, yeah, that was brilliant.
Yeah,
they had 12 on. I only saw one.
yeah. The minute you see that badge, you're over it. And just going back a few weeks, we were talking about Dream Collab, which you ducked out of.
Yes,
at the time. You've now had 2 weeks to come up with what's your dream collab between two brewers?
I'm going up north. I'm going to Yorkshire for my dream collab. 2 breweries from Yorkshire. Timothy Taylor, brewer.
Okay, sorry, I nearly choked on my beer there.
Brilliant. That was worth it just for that. Well, I mean, it's not a surprise. They brew.
No, actually, it is a surprise. I would never have ever thought anybody would have said that.
Timothy Taylor and Magic Rock. I would love for that to happen. Magic Rock are one of my favourite modern brewers, and Timothy Taylor make one of my favourite cask beers.
Brilliant.
And based on what Magic Rock, Cloudwater and JW Lee's managed to do last year with Freeze Company, I see plenty of room there for Timmy Taylor's and Magic Rock.
Oh, let's make it happen.
So if anyone knows anyone who can do this for me...
Hashtag Magic Timmy. That's what we want.
That would be my dream collab.
We want to see that happen. Now, the guy that asked that question a couple of weeks ago has asked us another question this week. So Paul at Ewan RCD, who is becoming a regular contributor to Bitter and Lingerness, who keeps asking us questions.
It does.
So if anybody is upset at the length of shows, it's because of Paul, because he keeps asking us these questions.
And good questions.
You have the chance to design your own dream pub. What do you have on tap, and what else goes in the pub? Go.
I would still have lots of cask. I would have a mix of cask and keg, no macro. That'd be my starting point. But I would have beers that people would feel safe with as well.
Okay.
I wouldn't try to alienate people.
Yeah.
And I'd have a decent selection of spirits and wine. But I would definitely have a bit of a Doctor Who theme going on in the pub. I think my geekiness would have to come out.
You're going for a very niche audience here, aren't you?
I think it wouldn't be advertised as a Doctor Who pub. It wouldn't like have TARDIS doors. Well, that's an idea. TARDIS doors when you come in, make the noise.
Is there any way you can make it
bigger on the inside?
Bigger on the inside than it does on the outside. That's what you.
That
really
would be a very
want.
good
That's
trick,
what
wouldn't
you
it?
really want to achieve.
I think I would have a bit of, and it would be one of those things. If you win lots of money, you can do what you like. Some of my geeky stuff would definitely have to end up in the pub. But I would have some sport on occasions, and that would include football, because I like football. And I get really pissed off that you can't have decent beer and watch football very often at the same time.
Oh, it's really?
I think so.
Okay.
I think you can go to pubs and drink decent beer, and I think you can go to pubs and watch football. But generally, pubs which show Sky Sports tend to be the ones which have... Maybe it's because they've got the better margins with the macro drinks, I don't know. But a lot of the time you can't get both. They might show rugby, because that's obviously a bit more respectable. I'm not saying there is I've got a problem with that at all, because I like rugby. But I would still show sport as well.
See, I wouldn't. I would probably go for the approach of there'd be no televisions. There would definitely be background music only. And it would probably only ever be music of my choosing, because it's my pub, and as we know,
I would only have music of my choosing, and I wouldn't have it too loud either.
Yeah. In fact, my pub would probably be called All About Steve, or
there's a name.
Or probably just be called Steve. Steve's pub.
No, just Steve.
Yeah. And I think in terms of what I put on tap, I think probably
Cannonball, Accent,
anything that's got a green label and is an IPA. I think actually I might create the first IPA themed pub in the UK.
Only IPA.
Only sells IPA. That's all, from session to standard IPAs to doubles and triples. That would be it. That'd be
all you drink.
That's all you'd get. In
Where's
there.
the landlord? He's in the corner.
He's in the corner, soaking under the tap of cannonball. That's exactly where he is. But yeah, no, I'd like to play around with the idea.
I'm sure a lot of people have thought about that before. I mean, I've thought about it, but it'd only be if you could afford it as well, wouldn't it? Is that one of the hardest jobs has to be running a pub?
Oh, absolutely.
I'd love to own a pub.
Yeah,
and I'd love for it to be basically my pub, but I think I'd like someone else to run it most of the time. If I'm being absolutely honest, it's a hell of a lot of work.
You'd have to have a good manager.
Yes.
I think a good manager and someone that's good at events and social media. For me, I think those are the two things that would... Because you need someone that understands the pub and how everything runs.
I'd have opening hours advertised all the time and stick to them.
And then you need somebody that's going to promote the hell out of the pub.
Yeah.
And then probably the third element is a team of staff that are passionate about what they do and will engage with the customers as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So
good question.
Great question. As always, thanks Paul, for doing that.
So, Paul, if you come into lots of money and you want me and Steve to do the pub, let us know.
And also, let us know what your perfect pub would look like. Use the hashtag Opinions and get involved. So, who has won this week's great big box of nothing?
Well, this week's winner comes from someone who's already contributed to the show tonight, James at Gammon Baron. A picture he took at the North Bar, which as usual will be shared, and so you'll have seen it by the time you hear this probably. Basically, you've got a little bit of colouring in the corner where it says North Bar 20, because it was their 20th anniversary, wasn't it? Yeah. Which I was really surprised about when I first heard that they were going for 20 years, so well done them.
Well known as being one of the first craft bars in
before
the UK. Yeah,
really the term even had been thought of or existed. And then the rest of it is in black and white. But what nailed it for me was the use of a silver tankard or pewter tankard on the bar.
It's an incredible picture.
Just before the pumps.
Yeah.
So, well done, Gammon Baron. The big box of nothing's on its way up north.
Excellent. And if you want to have a go at trying to wrestle that great big empty box of nothing away from Gammon Baron, put a picture on Instagram, use hashtag cheers guys, and if it's the one that Martin likes the most next week, you shall be awarded the prizeless prize. So, I think we're almost there.
We are almost there. So, what do you think of the last beer?
Final beer. Still getting a lot of fruity notes off of it.
Yeah, would you be able to pick out Mosaic? Bearing in mind single hop, and we probably feel it's one of the hops we like.
No, that's it's not the Mosaic that I've tried before.
It's not unpleasant, and this one has definitely got a certain dryness to it as well, I think. It's nice, but I was hoping for more, and I think this is where I set myself up sometimes, and maybe this is where, if you're going to do a single hop, I expect that hop to be front and centre.
Are you sometimes a little bit let down by single hop beers?
Yes, because it's a bit that thing about doing what it says on the side of the tin.
You know what? Let's not have this conversation because people didn't want it. So let's not allow them to listen to us have this conversation, and we'll save that one for another day.
Save for another one when you vote for it.
Yeah. You should have voted for it if you wanted to hear us talk about single hot beers. If you do want to get involved in the show this week or anything we do, just use the hashtag Hopinions. We will find you and we will insert you into the appropriate part of the show.
Okay, the word insert, let's never use that again.
Okay. Just to mention, we are still running our listener survey. There is still a link in the show notes. Can you please, if you love what we do, if you'd like to have comments about what we do, if you'd like to tell us what you like and what you don't like, just take a few minutes to fill out the survey. We are taking all of the feedback over the summer. Martin and I are going to sit in a garden drinking copious amounts of beer and decide what the show looks like come September.
Exactly. There's a lot of time will go into this, naturally.
Yes,
well,
absolutely.
a lot of beer will go into it.
And it will probably come out sounding exactly the same. But we are grateful to everyone that's completed it so far. If you haven't completed it yet, please click through on the show notes. Mate, what is coming up next week?
Next week, we've got a guest. So Pete McCarry is joining us, isn't he?
He is indeed. We are back to our
London studio. So we're recording at the recently refurbished Brewdog in Shoreditch.
Yes.
We've invited Pete to join us because it's a subject fairly close to his heart. I think it's going to be about disclosure.
It is, yeah. So beers that are given to us, like these have.
Whether they be podcasters, bloggers, anyone who gets, let's use the word freebies.
Yeah.
And how this impacts what we say, what we do. So watch out for the poll on Sunday, and we'll be recording next Monday with Pete. And if any of you are familiar with Pete's blogs, I'm sure he will be forthright with what he says.
I think he absolutely will.
And if we give him enough beer, he might do a little song at the end.
And we might need to put the microphone very close.
Really close.
Very softly spoken.
Very softly spoken.
So that's a bit of a warning for next week's audio quality. Okay, well I think we're there tonight.
I think we're there. We're done.
Cheers to Emmanuales again for sending us through the beers.
Thanks, guys.
If you do want to try some of those, like I say, please hit up Sean at Beer Central because he's a great guy and he will sort you out, and I can contest to that. But until next week,
cheers.